In a little bit of a departure of what I normally talk about in my videos, I thought it would be fun to tell a story and talk about how I've had a new spirit guide who's come to me over the last year and has upgraded all the energy healing that I do and the channeling that I'm doing. So I'd love to introduce you to this new spirit guide who's working with me. And so let's go ahead and get started. If you didn't already know, I was a science-based believer. I was raised by a family of essentially atheists who didn't believe that there was anything outside of ourselves that we could count on, right? That this life was one time, one and done. And so it wasn't until I had an ayahuasca experience about 10 years ago from this recording that I started to wake up. And actually, it was an instantaneous awakening. As soon as that ayahuasca experience began, I realized that I was speaking to a voice of universal knowledge. And it began teaching me about the world of spirituality and that there was such a thing as past and future lives, that our souls were infinite and would carry on from experience to experience. This training in the middle of a plant medicine experience changed absolutely everything. And from that point on, I could speak to a voice, that voice of universal knowledge. And it wasn't until later, many years later, that I discovered that one of the main voices that I was working with came from a collective called the Hathors. And the Hathors are an extra-dimensional collective similar to the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, except that they were incarnated here on Earth during Egypt's Golden Age. And I was incarnated among them, which is where I learned how to do one of my main modalities, which is the soul essence activation. That is the main activation that you'll find throughout my YouTube channel. And I use it a lot in my classes and in my one-on-one sessions. But what I discovered is that those little quick activations, they're just a small part, the tip of the iceberg of what else I could do. So if you were to attend any of my classes or work with me on a session, you discover that instead of these very quick 4-second activations, that I'm actually working on you for 20 to 40 minutes, where I'm doing tones and doing these activations and following guidance and nearly channeling. Not trance channeling, but a lot of times information will come through. So what I had noticed was that my connection to them, while very strong, and they are very powerful and I can do a lot to help people, what I noticed was there were times when that connection wasn't as strong and I couldn't necessarily get the information that I was really searching for, or do the healing quite to the level that I really wanted to be able to do it. But not that long ago, I discovered that there was a new spirit that was there with me. This came about when I did another ayahuasca experience about a year ago to the time of this recording. And during that experience, not only did I discover that there were more voices available to me, but my girlfriend was there as well, and she had an incredible awakening and incredible experience where she was able to work with the spirit of ayahuasca, just like I had been able to do in the past. Well, what we realized is that this new being that was coming to me was not the spirit of ayahuasca, it was not the Hathors, and I also have worked with the Arcturians and the Andromedans, the Ancient, so many other different collectives. Well, this one was an individual, and she could see it very well, even though for me it was a little harder for me to recognize. It turned out that this being had shamanistic qualities. And like I said, it was actually an individual rather than a collective. Another thing that I started to notice is that at certain times, maybe while listening to music, maybe while meditating, I would suddenly start to move in a different way. Like my shoulders would bounce a little bit, my arms would move, my legs would really shake. And at first, I didn't know what to make of this. I could tell that it wasn't me doing those motions. I was allowing those motions to happen. If I don't want it to happen, it won't. But what I was noticing is that, okay, there's something kind of new here. It's not the same experience. It's not the same vibration. It's not the same feeling as I was getting before when working with the Hathors or the Andromedans or the Arcturians. Okay, so now that this has begun to happen, it's curious, it's interesting, but I'm kind of used to impossible to describe things happening to me as it's always been since I began my awakening. Incredible synchronicities have occurred. There's lots of videos talking about many of those sorts of stories, so you can dive into more of those if you're interested. So I didn't really pay it that much attention. However, very recently, let's say within the past 2 weeks of the time of this recording, I discovered that this being was there way more prominently. And so much so that it started showing up while I was doing my activation work. So in the middle of doing an activation for someone, my shoulders start to pop around. That's not exactly what it looks like because I'm actually doing it myself right now. And I was noticing that also the information that I was channeling through was much clearer and much more accurate. Not only that, but the shoulder motions and the arm motions and the leg motions were almost entirely mathematical, like very detailed, like just clean and clear edges and essentially sacred geometry that was being how do I describe this? Like if you could put a pen on my shoulder and put a piece of paper there, then you would probably see that I was drawing some sort of perfect mandala or something to that effect. I haven't actually done this yet. Now that I say it out loud, I should probably play around with it. But at the very least, that's how it felt. So then I discovered that this being, this new being that I've been talking to, or that has been talking through me and healing through me, everybody who received that healing seemed like it was more powerful, it was more healing, it was more effective than anything that I had done before. And I introduced this to my class live in the middle of the class. It was maybe week 3 of my 7-week program, and I said, hey everyone, I think I've got a new modality or something new that's going on here. Would you like to participate? Everyone, of course, willingly did so, and they started to report some incredible results. So then we got a little bit further along on this journey, on this process, and in my podcast, which is called Remembering Our Oneness with Xane and Monica, you can actually watch the episode on my YouTube channel. It was during that episode that myself and Monica and my girlfriend, we all figured out for sure who this other being was. And this new spirit is Mescalito. Mescalito is the spirit for peyote, which is interesting to me because I've never done peyote before. I've done ayahuasca multiple times, but not peyote. So I was a little bit surprised that that was the being. But of course, if you think about it, Aya is the mother and Mescalito is the father. And since I had had lots of Aya experiences, and so had my girlfriend, it made sense, right, that I would also be tied into the father, Mescalito. So now moving forward, when I do activations on the rest of my YouTube videos, including ones that I've just recently done, you're going to see and feel a difference. And here's what it's going to be like. Sometimes I'm not talking while I'm doing activations. This is new for me because I've always received information. I always talk through what's actually happening. But now when Mescalito gets involved, now this is actually him. Now when Mescalito gets involved, I suddenly start moving. And you can hear, of course, it affects my voice. It's kind of shaky, right? And that's because he's actually physically moving me in this mathematical way, and this new healing and this new transformation or transmission of energy is coming through me and through the camera, through the recording, onto you. It still works just the same. You could be present, you could be watching me, you could just be listening to me. It still works, and we've tested all of those possibilities out, and I'm pleased to say that it is still very effective. And like I said, I believe it's even more effective. So now I do 3 different major things when I'm doing activations for people. I'm doing this shoulder motion through Mescalito. I'm doing vocal toning, often from the Hathors, where I hear a tone and make that tone. Well, again, when I make the tone and Mescalito is moving me, then it has a very different sound than it would otherwise. And then finally, that explosive sound that I make when I do an activation, that's still there as well. So everything has upgraded, and I'm really pleased with this, and I just wanted to share it with you, especially if you've been following me for a while and you've been participating in my activations. You're probably going to notice a big shift as I have moved from my previous style of activations now into this new one. So now's a great time if you're interested to join one of my classes or to participate a little bit more in what I'm doing, because I think, including all of my other YouTube videos, because I think you're really going to start to notice a big difference, a big, like I said, upgrade in your experience as well. Well, that's really all I wanted to share with you. I'm going to see if Mescalito would like to give an activation for all of you, and the main one that he talks about, or that he has asked me to do, is that while I'm doing that shoulder motion, while my body is moving around, during that time, you can make a change to yourself. So while I'm making this motion that you're about to tune into, you can decide what you would like to change about yourself. Think about it from your brain. If you could mind control yourself into thinking more positive thoughts, or defaulting to unconditional love, or defaulting to gratitude, to not being so upset when X or Y or Z happens, then this is your opportunity to reprogram your own mind during this activation. So if you'd like to, this time I'm not going to turn off the camera. So if you're interested in watching this occur, you can. Normally I black out the screen so that you can be 100% focused on the sound of my voice. Again, you do not have to look at me while you do this. I just want to record it in this way so that you can find it to be interesting if that's what you'd like to do. Okay, so for me, I'm going to close my eyes, and I welcome you to do the same. But if you would like to watch, you're more than welcome to do so. It's already begun, so all you need to do now is focus instead on what it is that you would like to change about yourself. Who would you rather be? What kind of change would you make so that you can enjoy life so much better, so that you can overcome things that have been bothering you? It's totally up to you. And so I'm going to remain quiet now as he does his work. He wants me to remind you of the fact that I love you unconditionally. If you're watching this right now, know that I truly do love you unconditionally. You are perfect exactly as you are. You've never made a mistake in your entire life. Everything that you've ever done has been perfect. So congratulations, you did it. I've said that many times before, but he really wanted me to say it again. It must be somebody listening to this has never heard it. Okay. Well, that's all there is to it. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks so much for participating in that brand new activation. You can watch this over and over again and reprogram different aspects of yourself, whatever you'd like to. Share this with everyone because this could make a huge difference across the world for anyone who needs that extra help and support. And I also highly recommend that you join one of my classes or work with me on an individual basis because we can really take you to amazing places. Thank you so much for watching this, for your interest, for all that you've done for me, because you've commented and you've liked and you've subscribed and you've shared my channel with so many people, and I appreciate it so deeply. I do love you unconditionally, and I'll see you in the next video.